Welcome back to the show. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, the delegation from Ghana, which traveled to Dubai to try and bring Nana Mensah back to the country to face charges of defrauding by false pretenses, have been interrogating him. Well, I have here in the studio editor at our sister station, Adom FM, Ifia Pokuya, who's been speaking to deep throat sources to get us more information, fresh information on what's happening there. Let me also let you know that we have a former independent candidate, presidential candidate Joy, right here in the studio with us. He's also into gold dealership, so we'll be talking to him. He says he has some ideas for those of you whose monies have been locked up in this scheme, or whatever you call it, Ponzi scheme. We're not sure yet what exactly it is, but if you got your money locked in, we have some words from Mr. Joseph Osei-Yeboah for you. Let's get more of what's happening in Dubai, the very latest on NAM1. Ifia, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. So what do we know?
Well, what we know is that they've been speaking to him and they've written a statement, they've taken details of it, and they also needed details of the offense for which he's been arrested in Dubai. They needed to understand the offense, the parameters of it, to understand the UAE laws, to find out what liabilities or remedies are under it, whether or not we will be able to bring him immediately, or we have to negotiate at the diplomatic level. Then we can bring the foreign affairs minister into it to invoke some diplomatic regulations and some treaties that we have signed. So you have authorities from the Ghana side, those who traveled from Ghana to meet the ambassador in the UAE, and together they've been meeting them. So they've been meeting the AG, the Attorney General in UAE, Dubai Attorney General. Dubai is actually a state, so there are about 3 states that makes the UAE. So they've met the Dubai, almost like a governor, and then they've met the Attorney General who took them around. They met the prisons authorities who also took them, and that's when they took them to the police headquarters where they met Nana Mensah himself in person. And this is the first time they are meeting face to face to have a discussion with him, because yesterday they were meeting all the authorities, but today they got an opportunity to meet him himself and to ask him in his face why he did what he did, and whether or not he has even done it, the facts of the case, what even happened, the facts of the case according to him. But one of the most important information that I got today was that they have forensic analysts who are tracking the money.
So who are these forensic analysts? Are they from the Ghana side or from the Dubai?
No, from the Ghana side. Okay. From the Ghana side. And government has tried to get some international help as well. So what they are doing is to track whoever got money from Nana Mensah, whether erroneously, by mistake, or as an attempt to hide or divert the money, whatever. So they are tracking the money. They're following the money. To find out where that money went. Yes.
Okay, and we understand that they earlier on had some kind of complications. The delegation that's in Dubai at the moment, they have some complications.
The complication has to do with the differences in law. You are dealing with different jurisdictions. So now you are in the UAE jurisdiction. You have to apply their law. And you have to understand that he has also been arrested for breach of a law that is within that jurisdiction. So now you have to invoke international rules, some of which UAE is not signatory to some of the treaties. You know, so you are limited in terms of what you can do, whether or not you can invoke some rules and international conventions that we have all signed to. Some of them they are not a state party to. So they are trying to deal with all that to find a way around it. And then, most importantly, if they can't bring him immediately, the delegation is saying that they need to get the money for Ghanaians.
They need to get the money for Ghanaians. I don't know what more Ifia knows, but let me hold on for now and engage Joseph Osei-Yeboah. Jacob, I beg your pardon, Jacob Osei-Yeboah. He's also into gold leadership. Like I said, he was an independent candidate for the 2016 elections, 2012 and 2016 elections. You help us understand a little bit more how the gold the gold industry, you know, purchase and sales of gold, the kind of business that you do. Is it similar to what Nana does?
Not really, but
I mean, not about the fact where you take people's money.
There's a resemblance. You know, there's a part that actually lured people into it that is doing gold business. Now, if you have a constant supply of gold, you can ship it on a weekly basis, depending on the volumes and the amount that you have. And on that weekly basis, you are likely to have a discount of about between 2 to 3% of the spot gold price. That one can translate into between 10 to 12%. Okay.
So it's possible to make between 10 to 12% in a month?
Depending on whether you have the source of the gold supply and then you are supplying onto your ready market outside. And in gold business, within 48 hours, you are paid once you have the agreement with the buyer and things like that. But it's not sustainable, okay? Now,
why is it not sustainable?
It will depend on the production of gold,
okay.
If you have the source of the gold.
So if you have a country like Ghana, where we have a lot of small-scale gold miners, that kind of gives you a ready supply of gold, doesn't it?
You know, yes, that was part of a business plan. I'm part of a team that we call Solomon Investment Group Limited. It was a part of a plan that we gave to the government. And that is what we need to do in order to roll up the small-scale industry, the small-scale mining industry. Okay, so that we'll have a source of funding that we can actually give to these small-scale miners. The moment you are able to invest into the activities, then you are likely to have, you automatically become a shareholder of their company, and for that matter, you are likely to have a higher discount, which will be more than even 10%. When you aggregate all the discounts that you can have on the world spot price, because of the fact that you've invested in these small-scale mines, then you are likely to have a lot of, you know, the analysis that we did was just pick only about 1,500 small-scale miners. There are more than that, but just pick 1,500 of them. If you have just 1,500 of them, just assume that within every month, each one can produce about 10 kilos.
10 kilos of
gold. Multiply that by 1,500, you're going to have 15,000. Now, a kilo of gold is 41,000.
Within which period we're looking? I mean, by the number of persons and the amount of gold they can make. Within what period? 1 month?
Yes, I'm assuming even if it's 1 month.
Okay, that's a lot of gold, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, that one translates to over 600 and something million.
Okay.
And then within a year, you're talking about $7.3 billion. You see, so if you do all these analysis, there's a possibility. But then in terms of the return, it's unbelievable. That is what makes it a very big question mark.
It's unbelievable to make 10%.
10% on a monthly basis. You have to be extra careful, because that one will translate into 120%. And if it translates into 120%, you are going to kill the banking industry and then the security industry.
So you kill the banking industry because now everybody is taking their money out of the bank, which looks like what a lot of people say they did.
They did, yes.
Took their money away from the bank and put it in this gold dealership.
Yes, and that is why with such a business, it has to be regulated such that your margins that you can give will not be that outrageous. But if something that can actually balance out with that of the banking and things like that. And that is where I'm actually asking the government, because they had the plans and everything. The government should ensure that at least we have this business model running up. If the
government should own this business model?
Not owning. The government should not be owning, but the government should give the state support for the business to run. Because you see, whenever you are dealing with gold, you always need the state support. Whenever you are dealing with gold, because of its tendency.
We also know that you have an idea about alternatives for the customers who's got their monies, you know, stuck in this business. What kind of ideas? What kind of advice are these?
You see, first and foremost, you've realized that they now want to politicize it between MPP and NDC. Now NDC is a moment of truth, the other is saying truth forum or something of that. They're coming out. I just don't want us as Ghanaians to buy into that. We should rather force the government. You know, we just heard from Afia. I've mentioned about the fact that we need forensic investigation into Menzgold's dealing and things like that. That is where the pressure should be. We should direct that pressure on the government to do the forensic. Because when you buy, according to law, if you buy stolen goods, if you don't even take care, you could even be charged. And so anyone who has benefited, provided it's proven that it's Ponzi, okay? I cannot say it's Ponzi. At this point in time, we can say that it's a perceived Ponzi scheme. And so when it is proven, then the forensic analysis can actually track those who have ever benefited any amount from Menzgold.
And do what?
Yes, and the state should help to retrieve that money.
But how? If I did business knowing that I'm doing legitimate business and I did it and I made money, how do you blame me for making money from a legitimate business I did?
That is why I just don't want all of us to rush and say it's Ponzi. And we should ask the state to tell us whether it is Ponzi or not, and then we can have a lot of questions asking the state.
Assuming without admitting that this was a Ponzi scheme, why and how can anybody who benefited previously be held accountable, be held responsible for?
No, you see, the forensic analysis will tell you that guilty, maybe you benefited 2,000 out of it. So we come to you that, hey, it was a Ponzi. And the normal circumstance, that is how Ponzi schemes are tracked in order to retrieve some money.
And so those persons will have to bring back the money they made?
Yes, of course, wherever that is.
Really?
You see, and especially those who initially invested in it and they've had some returns out of that. I mean, we will just find out the kind of returns that you have out of that. If it is not up to your principal, then what will be done is that you can only be paid the difference. And so it's a Ponzi scheme. You see, we need to understand, I will just give this as an assignment. We need to do about this 40-year analysis. This year, 79, is 40 years of June 4. We should do analysis. We realize that within these 40 years, we've had Ponzi churches coming up, Ponzi prophets, Ponzi malams, Ponzi political parties, every Ponzi banking sector, Ponzi security center. You go and put your money at the security, and then you have some people, the directors and owners of this security, they will be enjoying your money in big cash, and they will never pay your returns. We have Ponzi has cost the banking sector over 8 billion, and nothing is happening. Okay, everything is Ponzi.
So if I get back to the point you made about how customers who have been affected can go about, because this afternoon, in fact, this morning, we heard that some soldiers have come together to sue Menzgold. So the point you're making is that these people, what they can do is to make sure they put pressure, or they maintain the pressure on government to then continue the investigations to establish that this is a Ponzi scheme.
The information I got from the delegation was that one of the reasons why they're keen on getting the evidence was to give it to the lawyers who are representing some of these customers in the class action to use it in court to collect their money. And the point you raised about how can third parties who have acquired any benefits or whatever retrieve, or how can you retrieve money from the third party? You can, if the person ought to have known or is in such a capacity or position to have known that this is a scam and didn't.
That's interesting.
Yes,
because how can you prove that the person did not know?
It depends on but it depends on the caliber of person you are dealing with. If the person is such that the person has education,
deemed to have understood,
there's an assumption, a reasonable assumption that you ought to have known. You are in the banking sector, so putting your money in a scheme like that, you are not the same as me, who is sitting here. I don't have
but
that kind of knowledge.
Yes, actually, so she's providing this information because she's also studied law. So,
you see, there's something
so she can give us that
often than
information
not. Let me be blunt over here. More often than not, you have the state being complicit. Some state
but we
apparatus.
can't say that for now.
No. You see,
or you think?
Let me tell you. I myself.
Make that your final wrap up.
I myself. It's because of time. I experienced this. I went to France and make the arrest. I was told that when you come, yes, it was just a dupe, but we were tracking. And whilst I was just tracking, that was when Anas brought in the full gold. And when it was in court, and then they were doing this deal, when they're about to say, that was when the judge's issue came. And so some of these things is highly connected from lawyers, from police, from whatever. For NAM, during NDC time, it was Men's Bank, K, tends to Men's Bank, C, 25. When MPP came, Menzgold in 2017. I'm telling you, These are people who sponsor these political parties. I'm telling you.
Well, we
mine
don't have,
ended up.
we,
No,
but,
I'm telling
because
you. Mine ended up.
when you say some of these things, it depends on. I mean, your own may have ended up in a way that gave
that's
you.
right. I have.
It may have ended up in a way that gave you this. That gave you the conviction that this has a political connection. But until you provide, you provide the evidence, I cannot allow you to make that statement.
That is why I'm saying the whole nation, we shouldn't allow this true forum and things like that. They just want to throw dust on our eyes. And you know, the MPP started by saying that we are not going to pay anything. They are greedy. They always play on our vindictiveness.
So for you, we should take away politics from this. Customers. Let's put pressure on government to get the investigations through.
Because government is of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Very well. So government, so the alternative, it says he has, which it looks like some of you customers have been doing. In fact, you've gone on a lot of demonstrations. You made a lot of noise about this. It says follow government, pressurize government to make sure
I'm going to lead 1 million demonstration.
Government follows through with this investigation to establish whether or not it's a Ponzi scheme, because then there is a good chance for you at getting your money. But let's finish with what more we know from our sources in Dubai concerning the delegation, the Ghanaian delegation that's in that country. We know that the authorities there, the Dubai authorities, have been very helpful.
They've been very helpful. I think that they've given the Ghanaian delegation full access. First of all, there was no money found on him when he was arrested, so they couldn't find any money. And that's why they said it's important to follow the money. To find out where he stashed the money. Okay. And also to understand that they said the initial arrest which was made in Ghana was not by the BNI or the police. They are saying right now that the arrest was made by Iyoko based on a simple complaint, and therefore they couldn't have tightened his bail conditions. Okay. And so slipping through, they couldn't have stopped him. Nobody could have even monitored him, because if it was them, then maybe they would have tracked his movement and all that. So this is the information I am getting from Dubai. I think when they come, we'll be able to get more information.
Okay. So Efia Pokia is editor with our sister station at Dome FM. She's been tracking the information, just like the money of Namwan is being tracked by, we understand, forensic financial experts there. I've also been having this conversation with Jacob Oseyewa, who was an independent presidential candidate in 2012 and 2016 as well. He himself is into gold dealership, so he's been giving us some insights about how it works. Says it's possible to make 10% in a month, but there is still more to it than meets the eye. Thank you very much for coming, Efia, and thank you, Joy, for coming as well. You're still watching The Pulse with me, Gifty and Dopia. We're still keeping our eyes on Namwan. We'll tell you exactly what we know, as and when we know, and we'll follow up we'll follow the story through to the end. Away from that.